We'll call the meeting to order. Dane Shaw will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Father, we are grateful again to be able to come and make decisions for your city. We ask you to give us your wisdom and fill this room with your presence, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have the sheet. Got it. Okay. Roll call. Here. 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 All right. Thanks everybody for being here. We have several resolutions and an ordinance. First on our list was one, and I'll let Kyle talk about it. Resolution 22089 accepting ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds and amending FY22 budget.
Good evening, Kyle. Good evening, Council.
Good evening,
Kyle
Kyle.
DeMesa, CFO.
One Kyle to another.
This resolution, we have a deadline on April 30th, a reporting requirement, and difference in this report and compared to the previous ones we've had to submit was they're asking for some sort of guidance on an initial plan that we're wanting to use our American Rescue Plan funds for. So we've had some preliminary discussion, and what this resolution does was come up with a kind of cookie cutter outline to where we're at today and how we plan on spending it. It doesn't give us any sort of permission to go physically spend on specific projects. All those things will still have to come to council. It literally just gives us permission to click certain boxes for the report and for us to be able to do that. We can't do that without permission from the governing body. So that's what this does. And you'll see the two categories that we currently have. The $10 million is for governmental services. The final rule came out and you have a selection between a standard allowance of $10 million or calculating your lost revenue. The $10 million made the most sense, being that we're only going to receive 10.9, which is almost our full allotment. The remaining difference is in the category of water and sewer and infrastructure. And that's essentially the nuts and bolts to the resolution, if there's any questions.
No, but just to help me be clear, there is no individual project or expenditure that we're...
All this literally does is allow us to submit the report. The specific projects that would fall under each category will still be presented to council for vote if these categories remain as we go forward.
Yeah. All right, we did have a member of the public to come speak on this agenda item. Anybody have any questions for Kyle first? We can do that in discussion if we need to. Miss Andrea Hoffmeyer-Wilson is on the list, and we'll do our regular 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I know y'all came in late, but, well, not late, but later than this was out there. So if you want to have a comment, that's fine.
Okay. So, last time I was in front of y'all, one of the things that we talked about was the fact that we do need better multimodal access throughout the city. We really think that that should be a focus. It's in the One Decatur plan, and we'd like to see some really strong efforts towards evaluating the different areas of the city, you know, not just one district, but just all of the different districts, and saying where could we really use some more sidewalks and some more bike access. I'm really excited that we are looking at the traffic on Carradale, and we know that because actually one of the counters is chained to our mailbox, so it's really pretty cool. But it's $10 million. I know that that goes by really, really fast. Okay, what I'm suggesting is that, you know, perhaps in the report, if it's presented that there's some sort of stakeholder engagement with the public to say, you know, there's that suggestions, preferences, things like that will be looked at, because We also do have a lot of new developments that are going in. The last two that you talked about that you were scheduling vote, hey, we're all for them. We think that those high-density developments across from the high school and on Spring Avenue, where there's no problem with traffic, I agree with you, no problem with traffic, but there are some places where, like on Modus, right across from the high school, I mean, they need to have some bike paths. They need to have some sidewalks in there and stuff. So here's the thing, is that I'm learning stuff all the time. At the Planning Commission, the new developments going in, they're required to put sidewalks in front of those. But one of the things that really concerns us is we're gonna end up with this patchwork of sidewalks to nowhere. So in looking at that and looking at all of these applications for increased zoning, all of the permits that we've got and everything, and what the patchwork might end up being, maybe out of some of these ARPA funds, I don't know how much it costs to finish out a sidewalk, but block by block by block, maybe we could make this a more multimodal friendly, AKA just walkable and bikeable, out of using these funds and have a nice big win. So if we could figure out a way to have some stakeholder engagement and include that in part of the plans, then that would be great.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Either two you guys want. I would just respond to that and say I wish we had sidewalks and bike paths across the entire city. I think in a lot of places we do have good sidewalks, and I think it's been, Carl Mayer has had a plan of where some sidewalks need to go. That's our city engineer, Carl Pruitt. And I think we would be committed to that. Now, one approach, this is my personal approach to the ARPA money, I see it no different because of the 10 million exception as a budgeted, what we budget, what is an unassigned fund balance. It's money that's available to do projects just like we're talking about. So really the engagement is when we do our budget, when we spend the unassigned balance, when we do the ARPA expenditures. It's really what money is available for capital projects and how are we going to use that, not just one specific bucket. So, but I totally agree. I think what you will see me support, and I can't speak for the other members of the council, is when we do development, because we are seeing a lot of development, which is just great. I mean, that's what I've wanted to see, and it's good projects that are coming. I don't have any intention of leaving sections of, long sections where there's just a little short sidewalk in front of one lot. That makes no sense to me either. So anyway, I just say all that to say I agree with we need to have a commitment to that intermodal access. So any other?
I want to add something onto that because you kind of touched on something. Not today, but I just kind of want to get it on y'all's radar. We do need to come up with this plan on what we are going to do with it in the short-term future. I kind of touched on it when I kind of did the presentation that a lot of municipalities and counties have this money, and they're all going to kind of be along the same timeline as us to utilize it. And I touched on there's only so many vendors and so many people that can do certain things that we could potentially do. So
we have to have it committed by, there's a date.
December 31st, 2024.
And the project
spent by December 31st, 2026.
Okay.
Just to get it on your radar. I don't want this to seem like I'm shoving it, but I know you want to have some time to have discussion with stakeholders and whatnot. So just keep that all in mind. And this is also kind of a PSA to stakeholders that if you want to have some input, to reach out to council and give your input.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
All right. I think that's our speakers that we've got. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pepper. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22089 is approved 5-0. Next, we have Resolution 22090, approved vacation request 53921, Nowland Development. Okay, go ahead, Lee. Sorry.
Yes, this is just a small portion of the alley on the backside of this property owned by Mr. Nowland, approximately 5 feet wide by 70 feet, and it's just to accommodate for the footprint of the hotel building. And it was verified by DU that there are no utilities affected by the vacation of this, and no easement is required in return, as we see with some of these. Engineering was also good with it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22090 is approved 4-1. Next is Resolution 22091, approve urban renewal covenants and plan modified related to hotel and parking garage uses.
Mr. Ladner, there's 3 resolutions of note. An ordinance, without the ordinance being adopted, the others really are not able to go into effect, because the ordinance, this is the fruition of months of discussion of the council. The council, we've already issued warrants to pay for the parking garage months ago. We've had design for the parking garage that we've expended funds on. So it's been understood that in order for the parking garage and the hotel to be located there, that there's the city, 2 parcels of them will be needed to accommodate that, to get the hotel and the parking garage on that. So that's what the ordinance does. It just simply authorizes us to transfer, along with this vacated alley, we would claim the vacated alley. Basically, all we're saying with the quitclaim deed is whatever interest we had in it, we convey that. We really don't have any interest in it now that there's no utilities in it. So, but it's months of work, and council's been made aware of these things. And what we would ask for is immediate consideration of the ordinance.
So you want us to take up the
I think we
ordinance
should.
first?
Well, you
That's
can go ahead and approve the others, but they're not going to be, we're not going to be able to sign them because the ordinance has to be done first.
Okay. All right, well, I can read the ordinance first, and we can
Right.
take that up if there's a motion for immediate
So moved.
consideration.
Sorry.
It's okay. There is, what are you motioning for
Immediate consideration?
on the ordinance?
Yep.
All right, so that's ordinance 224511, approved transfer of city parcels related to hotel and parking garage agreements. There's a motion by Mr. Pepper for immediate consideration and a second by Mr. Pike.
Mr. Leonard, can I say one additional item? The hotel is trying to close this out because of interest rates and commitments. And I appreciate y'all meeting special. I forgot to put that in there. So we're on a tight schedule in order to get this accomplished.
Okay, and just help me, this is just for immediate consideration, so, but the ordinance is explain the ordinance one more time and why.
In order for us to transfer ownership, it requires an ordinance that you basically say this property would not be any longer needed by the city.
And then everything else that's in here that has to do with the rates and the length of the lease is under
Well,
that.
they can't build the hotel
Gotcha.
without this. And
Okay.
that's what the development agreement, the lease of the parking garage, the verification of covenants, and all that, really are not going to be effective without this.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be open.
I
I didn't want y'all to go ahead and approve something without the knowledge that the ordinance is the key element.
yeah, I got you.
Okay?
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion on the immediate consideration?
I guess my question is, Herman, I know the rates might be creeping up, but could this not have waited until our Monday work session, just out of curiosity?
Well, if you don't double vote, if you double voted Monday, well, you gotta have a council meeting, first of all. Yeah, that can be done.
Yeah.
We could
But
have
without,
had a
but
special
without,
We could have a special
without,
meeting
if
at the
we
time.
waited till Monday and you requires a double vote, you're up against
I will say,
the closing time.
I read literally about 3 hours ago, Jerome Powell gave some discussion about rates being bumped up 50 basis points fairly imminently. So it really, time is of the essence on this, but.
The answer is you'd have to, they're trying to close the first part of next week.
I
If you
understand.
wait till Monday night and it's not double voted, then we're up against, and it may not make the cut. And that's,
I mean, I got that, but it just appears that, and I understand the rates are going up, fully aware of that. But, it's hard for me to believe that they would go up, substantially. I hear what,
well,
Mr.
when you're
Wagner's saying.
spending this millions of dollars, each point means a lot.
That's
what they tell me.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate the question, but that, yeah, the answer is, if you double voted it Monday night, that would be fine. But, that
Well-
puts you very close, because you can see there's hundreds of pages that have to be collated
Sure.
and signed.
All right, any other discussion on the motion for immediate consideration? All right, roll call. Aye.
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 The immediate consideration is approved with a vote of 5-0. Is there a motion on the ordinance?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I guess my question is, has everyone read through the contract?
Through Herman's points, I said this on Monday, I read through the contract when it was first sent, and it's a lot to probably what your point is.
Well, it is a lot, but the thing is that we are allocating, there are gonna be 227 spaces, as listed here on this summary sheet. And 90 of those are going to the hotel. And that's roughly 40% of the overall parking spaces that are going onto the backs of our citizens. And we are extending a huge benefit to a private investment. And our citizens are going to get partial usage of that. We got everything from cleanup of the deck, and upkeep. It's just, to me, it's a lot to put on our citizens, and I think the average citizen would probably believe that if, the hotel is going to get 40% of the usage, that they should put more of the bill. And that's kind of where I am as well. But and the concern of mine is that we're charging them $2 per day for the usage, well, per room that's rented.
Yes.
And if they use, say, if there's a slow time, they have 5 rooms rented, and they're paying us $10, and they've got basically 90 spaces that none of our citizens can use, and they're designated. We're responsible for the paying of the stripes. We're responsible for every aspect of this thing, essentially. And my concern is that I just don't know that that's a fair play for our citizens with a private investment. Our citizens are shouldering this.
Okay. Can you clarify the 80, because is there not a way that they can?
Well, what we anticipate doing, that's a very good
10
point.
is
That's what we
designated,
discussed,
80
that.
yeah.
We discussed that, what we're gonna have a way electronically to monitor the number of spaces they need. So if they're not needed by them, we can use them as a general public. In other words, there's gonna be a methodology whereby we know how many spaces they're actually using. And they're gonna have to coordinate with us, for us to, all we're doing is assuring them if they need 80 spaces, that there'll be, or 90 spaces, there'll be 10 designated, because we're getting beyond, but it's okay, it's part of the discussion. There's 10 designated spaces, then there's 80 undesignated. The 80 undesignated is our goal. We've been assured that Dane's talked to parking garage people that do this kind of thing, that we can electronically determine how many spaces they're using, and they need to work with us to tell us if they don't need but 40 for the night, then we're going to open up the other 40.
So that's more manpower that we've got to, if they're gonna use 30 spaces tonight, then that's more manpower that we've got to utilize to say, you're using 30 spaces tonight, so the other 60 will go to our residents. I mean, and that's gonna be on a daily basis effectively, Herman.
Well, it's done electronically. I don't know if it's going to.
It's electronic, but that's gotta be done on a daily basis to determine whether or not we can use those things or not. And so I just.
That's right, I understand. But I wanted to at least know that we have tried to address that, because that's a very legitimate concern.
Again, we're responsible for that technology and all of that, correct? According to this contract.
We're responsible.
Yes.
Yeah, all those expenditures are ours.
We've got to have a way to collect the funds
Yeah,
from the public or anybody else.
but all of those expenditures are ours, and they fall onto the back of our Decatur citizens.
And I'm not trying to advocate, I want to share, this is in a B5 zone, that means there are no parking requirements. But obviously, if they're going to put a hotel there, they've got to have assurance that there's adequate spaces to meet their guests.
Does anyone know how many spaces are in that lot currently?
Roughly 70 to 80, so I think this is still gonna be high 50 additional spots
Okay.
in that lot.
And
After-
sure, my only comment, and I understand the point that Mr. Jackson's making. I've heard nothing, regardless of how many spaces are gonna be in the deck, nothing but positive, response from citizens. Because I think what citizens always are asking, which we have not a lot of control over, is when are we gonna get some nicer restaurants? When are we gonna get some nicer, different retail? We got too many hamburger places. We've all heard it. And when you bring a Marriott, brands are gonna follow that. And so I think the investment is the word I would use, that we would be making, to help bring this hotel here, will pay off, for our citizens. And that's the response I've heard. So while I think those are our concerns, I hear a lot about parking, and I've never really understood that, because you can usually find a parking spot, but bringing these dorms in and things that are gonna help populate downtown and our city to bring the things people are constantly asking for, I think is worth some of the potential limited risk involved.
Well, and I hear what you're saying too, but I would just counter that by saying that that's speculative.
Yeah,
It's speculative.
absolutely.
And the thing is that regardless of whether those things come, this still falls on the shoulders of our citizens.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest concern.
It's certainly speculative, and I know we probably have a different stance on speculative things. My stance is I'm willing to take some of that risk for what the reward would be, and I totally understand the stance of I don't feel good about taking that risk. I'm in the finance world, and I battle with our operations people about that all the time.
That's
So.
right. But we're taking it on the risk. We're taking that risk on behalf of our citizens. That's where.
So with that, as I understand it, in the hotel, there'll be no kitchen, food preparation, things of that nature, no beverages sold, less soft drinks out of a...
I think what I've heard, Mayor, I've heard no restaurant or bar. I'm a Marriott guy when I've traveled, and Fairfields typically will have maybe sometimes a continental breakfast area, and then they also typically have a little area where you can go get a drink or like a Coke or whatever and take it to your room. But I don't expect, they are not going to have bar, restaurant, because they don't want to compete with our downtown.
So
That was my expectation, and that's what I've heard.
the guests will end up
Sure.
visiting our food, our restaurants.
Yep. All right, any other discussion? All right, we have a motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance 224511 is approved 4-1. Herman, we need to go back to B under resolutions, or do you want me to just read all of them and let you?
Well, see, we did the vacation.
I'm sorry, C.
I believe we did. I'm trying to get it.
We
in my
did,
mind.
C.
Yeah. C, yes. Okay, C.
Why don't I read them and then you can talk to us about
That'd be
them.
great.
Resolution 22091, approve urban renewal covenants and plan modified related to hotel and parking garage uses. And then resolution 22092, verification of compliance with covenants, hotel and parking garage authorization. Resolution 22093, approval of development agreement and parking garage lease agreements regarding Fairfield Inn and Suites.
Okay. Well, back in the 70s, for those that have lived here since the 70s, I'm one of them, there was an urban renewal project, and we remember the canopies and all those different things. And there was covenants put on there that related to the particular uses. And just to make sure, because, and I'll talk further about it later, the lender, the title insurance company, and the investors or the owners of the hotel want to have assurance that these uses are allowed under the covenants and the urban renewal plan. Ruth, before I forget it, and I didn't mean it, Ruth and Chip have been very instrumental in helping get this accomplished, especially Ruth with the covenants part. So what we're asking is to confirm that the parking garage, it allows a parking surface, but we're changing them, if you all approve this, to allow a parking garage. It also allows the hotel to use the parking garage. And it's my understanding that the city's proposing some retail spaces on the first floor of the parking garage. And in order to do that, the covenants need to be adjusted to allow that. So basically what this does is adjust the covenants or modify the covenants whereby these uses that we just described are authorized uses.
Did I not read, Herman, that the hotel had the first floor parking deck?
They have 10 spaces on the first floor.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's a good question. No, that's where the designated parking spaces are. No, they're not going to have the entire first floor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what that does.
Do you want to move? Just
Oh,
tell
I
us
can
the
go ahead
date.
and just do them
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
That works
would be
for
good.
y'all, it works for me. If there's something else I need to share back here, team, y'all let me know.
This basically
All right,
goes back
okay.
to the original.
I'm sorry, what now?
This basically goes back to the
Right, it
original.
takes us.
Usage.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's a good point. For some reason, several years ago, they were modified to take away parking garages and just have surface parking. So all we're doing now is just reverting back to what was already there. That's a good point, Ruth, thank you.
And since you mentioned it, let me ask you something, Herman.
Uh-huh.
The canopies that were downtown, how long did those things stay up?
It's what now?
How long did those those canopies, how long did they stay up? We just took them right down,
No, they stayed up for decades. When I worked at B.J. Elmore's, they were there. They were just got removed. Alan, you know when they got removed?
They were removed before I came,
Yeah, before I came too. I don't know if it was decades, Herman.
23 years ago, so.
They've been gone longer than I thought they had, but they were built in the, what, 70s.
Okay.
They stayed for
You
decades.
just brought it up and I was
But
just.
then the merchant said that was inhibiting their ability, in other words, they wanted openness.
I remember that, but I just remember us expending funds that were basically trashed after just a very short period of time.
No, it was longer than that.
Okay.
It was several
Go ahead.
years.
I don't
That
think
could-
it was
I'm
that
sorry, I
long.
didn't know, see, time passes fast when you get mature, like
Go
that.
ahead.
I think it was 95 or 96 when urban.
So it'd be about 20 years, yeah.
Did the urban renewal.
Yeah, all right. All right, let's see. And then, what a separate resolution is that the mayor would be authorized to verify that these uses comply with the urban renewal plan, the zoning ordinance, and any other restrictions of the city. Obviously, the reason for that is because investors, also the lenders, and the title insurance company want to have assurance before they certify the title, and also before they invest, that these uses are allowed. And all that does is just allows the mayor to verify that those uses are allowed. And they would be they will be if you do the one just above. And then the other item, E, I incorporated and put in just one resolution because the development agreement and the parking garage agreement interact and depend on each other. In fact, the development agreement contains as an exhibit the parking garage lease. So basically, the development agreement does like I did in my little summary here. I can go over that if you wish for me to, or.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you, the discussion you had, or y'all had with the attorneys for, I guess, the hotel and developer, the length of the lease is long. It's 50
Yes, it
years
is.
with a
It is.
25-year renewal. Is that typical what they would have expected? I mean, did they kind of give you any feedback on
Well,
that?
they started out with 75 plus 24, so it's been 99. Under these agreements, they have to operate a hotel, somebody does, and then we specify the type hotels. In other words, you got the Marriott, and I'm not trying to name drop, but name Hilton, La Quinta,
Yeah.
Wyndham, in other words.
Yeah.
Those are major, right now, are major hotel chains, so that we want to make sure that we
If
have.
they were to sell that,
Yeah, if they want
yeah.
to sell it, but the commitment is whoever is operating a hotel, they has to operate a hotel or they do not have access to the parking garage.
Right.
So we wanted that assurance. We want them to operate, but it gets back to what Mr. Jackson mentioned earlier. If it's a hotel that's not going to use very many spaces and not going to bring a lot of business downtown, we need to evaluate that. So, yes, it is a lengthy, but we tried to get a shorter period, but they say that in their industry, this is what's required, or something to that effect. That's what but yes, we did try to adjust that.
Okay.
All right, and then you see here, as we already talked about, there's 227 spaces, 80 undesignated, 10 designated, 10, we already stated, is on the first floor. And I believe that covers most of what we've already talked about. And of course, in order for them to do this, they have to build an 80-room Fairfield Inn and Suites at the beginning.
Which one are you moving on?
First one.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Pepper on Resolution 22091, approve urban renewal covenants and plan modified related to hotel and parking garage uses. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion or questions on that one? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22091 is approved with a vote of 4-1. Next is Resolution 22092, verification of compliance with covenants, hotel, and parking garage authorization.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion or questions? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22092 is approved 4-1. Resolution 22093, approval of development agreement and parking garage lease agreements regarding Fairfield Inn and Suites.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? On that one, Herman, just on the rates that we talked about, 50% of public use, is that where we're starting, or we're just starting with the $2?
No, okay. The first 7 years, that was their request. It will remain at $2 to give them an opportunity to get acclimated to it. That was their request. The first 7 years, it would remain $2. After on the anniversary of the 7th year, then it goes to half of whatever the public charge is. The allotment to them does not change. There's still 80 and 10, so. But yes, that's what they asked for. Sure is. In order to make this feasible project for them, they see.
So effectively, if the public is paying $5 in there, people will pay $2.50, correct?
Once after the 7 years,
After the
yes.
7th year. I mean, that's,
Well,
I thought that was my understanding.
yeah, that's right. But there's also a provision that it would not increase in 1 year more than 25%.
I thought it was 125%.
Well, in order to be 125% of whatever, in other words, it's 25% basically increase. In other words, it would not increase more than 25% in any 1 year.
Over your
Over what it was already being charged.
100 is your.
For example, if they were paying $5, it would not increase more than $1.25.
Right.
So it'd be $6.25, like just an example.
Okay, it just says that the base rent shall not exceed 125% of the base rent charged lessee for the prior year. Okay.
That's right. That's, it's their rate, yeah, not the
25.
public rate.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22093 is approved 4-1. If there's any directors here, any items to discuss? We do have chief interviews on Monday morning at Turner Searles. Anything from the mayor? Anything else from council? All right, we're dismissed. Thank you.